for about 10 minutes, and it's been a pain in the butt because I've getting the title too long, and it's not been limiting me, telling me, oh, you got too much title. So what I gotta do is I want to bring it over here. I want to bring this up because when I'm using this program, I have to watch chat. It was muted and make sure I'm muted so I don't get any feedback. So how's everybody doing? Now, if you were around yesterday, you might have seen a version of this, and no, you weren't dreaming. I did try to do one, but I was tied into another microphone, and it was really bad. Cutting in and out and squeaking, so I didn't realize I had a different microphone active when it's on a crappy little camera hanging above me. So if I wanted to add different cameras and different views, I have to use this program, so we can see different things. Now, let me see how that other camera is lined up, as a matter of fact. It's off a little bit, but I think I can come this way. And I have to come, can't go far that way, so I can come this way a little bit. That puts it in a good view. There we go. And now you're seeing it on your side. And then if I come back to this scene, a little bit farther back, so let me go ahead and tip this camera a smidge up. There, that's a little better. About as good as it's going to get. I wonder, let me see. I think it is. It's not. Here. If I, well, let's see how this, no, it's not plugged in either. So give me a moment. I'm going to try to shine a little more light on the subject here. I'm going to have to change things around a smidge. You up, take you back. You're not going to be as bright. You up now. Actually, do this way. Bring you here. Plug you in here. And we should, not really add much more light. Maybe a little bit, but certainly not a lot. But it might help. At least take away some shadows. So anyways, as I was saying, there we go. That's pretty. Tried to do this last night, and I was having microphone issues, and it was on and off, and I could have, downloaded the video, deleted the one I had up, voiced over the whole thing, but I realized that, that's a lot of work. May as well just redo it and make it right. I had about an hour and a half, so I'm going to try to crunch this one down faster. So if you're hitting here, thanks a lot for showing up. Smash that thumbs up button, hit the like, and if you would, hit the subscribe. That would be very much appreciated. Trying to grow my channel. If I find you subscribe to me, I'll try to subscribe back to you, RC or not. So anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of talk about this H10 Optic Kit. This is the kit version. They've come out with the RTR 10 months ago, 7 months ago, something like that. And then they just released the kit around, well, what was it? A little bit before Thanksgiving, I think it was. And I didn't jump on the RTR. It was a nice unit, but I wanted to build. So I waited, and I've never built the Vanquish before, so I kind of back then said, well, when and if they drop a kit for this, I'll go ahead and get one, because I don't have any full Vanquish kits. I've got rigs with Vanquish parts on them. Got a nice bomber with a bunch of Vanquish on it. A Vanquish builder's chassis that I built the rig out of, but that's, there's only a little bit of Vanquish on that. I got some various other parts of Vanquish. Nice stuff, but I've never owned a rig. I've always admired their Origin, VS410 Origin rigs. And now they've got the Phoenix and the other ones, Stance, and a couple others. VFD Twin granny now, and they've come a long way. So when they released this H10, I thought, oh, that's a nice looking buggy. I like that. But those RTR, okay, I'll wait. I wanted a kit. I like building. As part of, for me, building's just as much fun as the driving, if not maybe even a little bit more. Especially now in Michigan, I'm in winter. I don't do well outside because I got frostbite in my hands and it don't allow me to do much. So I spend a lot of time building inside in the winter, and not so much time running because I'm too damn busy in the summer to do as much as much running as I'd like to do. So the H10 Optics is my first Vanquish purchase of a full kit and buy of one and then a build as it would be. And it was a fun build. I enjoyed it. Everything went together really well. I think everybody knows who's got one and done any kind of stuff has realized that there's a one or two little screw adjustments in the manual they have to go through, but other than that, manual is really good. When it came out, I bought it the night it released. They announced it, and that night I got home and went ahead and purchased my kit, and then started buying stuff for it over the next couple weeks until it got in place and got sent out to me. I was fortunate enough to get in on the first section of kits before the first shipment sold out. Same thing with the axle housings. Fortunate enough to get in to buy axle housings. And I didn't start building until I got my axle housings when they were released, just because that's the first thing you got to build. And that allowed me time to, go over and make sure what I wanted to do. I had picked up a bundles of wreath kit, but ironically, the beautiful items that was in the kit did not fit with what I wanted to do with this rig. So I got that rig stuff setting aside. I might have used one item, but I don't remember if I even used the one I had thought of using, because I had everything else, or had decided on other items than what I got with my bundles of reef, which it will go to use. Make no mistake about it. We'll be talking about it a little bit later. Because there's a lot of nice stuff in that bundle. It was well worth it. So, anyways, yeah, I picked up my electronics over the next couple weeks, and once they dropped the axle housings, I again got home from work that night, jumped on that buy, got the axle housings ordered up, and then when they showed up, I started doing my stuff. If you go through my channel, I've got some builds on this, basically start to finish. I actually started with the axle housings, but it's the second video I have, and it's actually my upload videos, not my live. I was going to do a build series where you kind of do sections of stuff. I don't have a lot of good software set up yet. I haven't used a lot of editing software in 12, 15 years. It's not much different, but the software companies and everything I used back then is different, so I'd have to learn new stuff. So instead of that, I just went back to the live format for the second video, which is actually the first in the video of series that you see on the live. So if you're looking for the axle build of the axle housings, go to the non-live, just the actual regular videos, and you'll find it in there. Of course, if you search my channel, you'll find Vanquish H10 Optic, and you'll find all these videos listed there as well. So everybody who's seen one, they've been out for a while, so everybody's seen them. They know the mods. There's a couple really good vids out there, very popular YouTubers. So they're out there doing stuff. Hey J Man, how you doing? Thank you, appreciate it. It was a fun build. If you're not familiar, H10 Optic from Vanquish. So build wasn't anything unique as far as that goes. Like I said, one or two screws in the manual that's different, but there's inserts for that kind of talk about it. And it's a pretty straightforward build. You start out with the axles, build the transmission, the skid system. Once that's all done, you start applying the rear plates, get the axles all together on the skid, get that all built up. Then you turn around, then put the rear plates or your electronics plates, if you will, in place. You've got your links in place, all attached to your rear skid, and then the next part is to do your interior, get your accessories set up, and then mount your cage. Of course, your shocks are built, I think, around step 5, step 4. I don't quote me on that because I'm pretty sure it's the axles and then the center, the tranny, and then the center cage, and then the shocks, and then the other items that you get into the cage. I added a few bit of details on my interior. Kind of hold it up here so you can see. Now I've got a couple different views on this camera. Now that is not a fire extinguisher like most people think. It's a NOS tank, nitrous tank. You know what it's supposed to be. They've got the Vanquish twin system on your tranny when you build it. Let's see if I can hold this up here and see if you can see. You can see that shifter right here. I'm pointing that right there. That shifter setup doesn't come with the optic. It's a part that comes with their, any of the rigs that has the VFD twin. You can buy it. It's in a parts tree for like $10 or $9, $8.99 I think it was. So I bought the parts. They got it in a couple parts tree. I bought the one with it. And that parts tree was $8.99. So I could have the shifter because I wanted the shifter looking here. Detailed that out. It's got a couple, little ball tops on it, and I actually painted mine like 8-ball and a 2-ball. 8-ball for the multi shifter, and a 2-ball for the high-low shifter. In this situation, in my presentation of the rig, detailed up the rear end. I got to do a little bit more, but I added some details to the fuel cell, and because I rear steer, I set up rear steering. You have to do some very significant mods. You got to take the bottom off the steering cell and then trim. If you can get in here and see, it's really hard to see this in this view because there's not a lot of good light. You got to trim the front side of the steering cell a lot, so it slips down over top of the servo and the servo mount, as well as there's another piece back here, a small cage brace that's here. Let me see if I can get you there. The cage brace, which is right here, going across. It's supposed to be a little bit more rearward. I moved it forward about 3 or 4 millimeters. If you're looking at the cage, in front of that piece, there's a small spot where the cage makes a bend in what would be the tube, and I went right in the center of that bend, or just to the rear, towards the rear of that bend, and that's where I drilled a new hole and moved the brace forward, and that keeps the bottom of the cage nice and rigid, because without it, with four-wheel steer, at least in my case, that cross brace in its stock position was hitting the servo steering mount as well as the wire on the servo, not allowing the back to compress all the way down. It would hit that and shift off one side. Of course, without the fuel cell being trimmed, it would be stopping right about there. It would go from there and hit right about there on my low profile servo. You'd lose all that extra travel. So you got a couple mods that I did, and I'll show them a little bit better. As far as the build go, though, I mean, like I said, it was really straightforward. I did add orange caps and orange rings to the front and rear. The stock ones were plastic and black, so I wanted to add a little color. Not so much to go with the Battleborn livery that I have here, which in this case, is what this kit was. But also, thinking about what I could do for it later, although that's changed over my original plan a little bit. And again, I'll go over that in a little while. But yeah, so I mean, adding the details, I like adding the details, makes it look a little bit more scale, personalizes it, obviously. Like say the interior, it's all black, so I added a lot of painting. I painted obviously the shifter up. The seats are yellow now, to match everything. The driver, I did them yellow and black. Black kind of pieces on the sleeves of the arms, black steel helmet. I'll add a little bit of detail. I painted the helmet kind of the shiny chrome to make it look like it's a mirrored. Kind of hard to get it in a good option area to see here. You can kind of see it's reflective right there. Steering wheel, added some detail around the steering wheel. some red and blue up in there to simulate, powder coated metal parts as well. So, there's that little bit of detail. Of course, the NOS tank, I kind of added the red straps and the red handle. I got to add a hose to it. I want to add hoses to the radiator here. It's kind of hard to see back here. There's a radiator right here, which I got the top of it, as you can see right there, painted, the cap painted red. It's got a couple of spots where you can actually attach hoses. So I'm going to come up some type of fake hose or radiator hose to run and route inside, just to add a little detail to the outside look, make it look a little bit more right. I did do a bunch of detail to the radiator itself, but you really can't see it in this, so I may move the radiator up to the window and use it in the back. Add that scale detail up there and open up some room down underneath that I could do a few things with. Kind of tight down there a little bit with the way my electronics and wiring is, which I got to clean up a little bit more. So for electronics, speaking of which, as I said, I went rear steer, so I have 2 steering servos. I went with 800 raw LPs from Reese RC. So I got 2 Reese 800 low profile servos, and then I decided to go with, because I'm in Michigan, it's snowy out right now, and then we got spring, which is kind of wet and gets muddy. And then, kind of a trail truck, or so it's, sold to be. Not necessarily a crawler, but it can be. People are doing pretty good making crawlers out of them, obviously. But this is a trail rig. So it's going to get kind of in some spots where it's going to be wet. So I went ahead and went with the Hobby Wing Axe. And they got the new R3 ESC. So I got the R3 Axe stuffed up in here with the 2800 kV motor, because I wanted to get something to have a little bit of speed for it. It's, again, not a crawler, it's a trail rig. So I know a lot of people are doing the Fusion Pros or even the Fusion SE. I've seen 1 or 2 people doing a budget SE setup in there. Pull the but I decided to go with the Axe and the 2800 kV because I wanted to get some wheel speed. The Axe R3 is actually 6S capable, although with this motor 4S is the limit. But you could put this on the larger new Hobby Wing Axe 8-scale crawler motor, which is meant for some of the larger crawlers coming out, and it will run up to 6S. But I got the wiring kind of tidy. It's not bad. The Axe is a perfect fit. I mean, this door battery system is kind of hard to see there. You can kind of flip it this way, so you can kind of see, but it slips right over top of that. I mean, it sets right in there really nicely. So it's like it's made to go in here. I don't have it set or velcroed or anything else or double-sided tape. I'll probably just put a little bit of foam in the side so it kind of pinches it down, because I don't want to put any undue stress on it, too much pressure. And then of course there you can see the Hobby Wing 2800 Axe motor. And then on the other side, of course, is the battery. I don't have it plugged in. I did unplug it. I made sure of that. So I slipped this back together. Where's my pin? Oh, there it is. Nope, it's there. Here. Easy on myself. Got a red tie on the one side. That certainly makes it easy. Cheapest body pin clip tag you'll ever get is just a black metal, red tie type unit. And then I say on this side, I do have the battery, got it strapped in. I'm running, this is a 4S right now, Goldblatt 1500 mAh. That fits in there nicely. I'm probably going to go down to 3S on this rig. I don't need anything too crazy, but this is what I have that really fit the battery tray right now. I do have a 3S 2200, but it's a little long. Not an Ovonic, what is it? Power Hobby. but it's a little long for the case, so it doesn't really fit super well without really starting to pinch. So I'm gonna have to buy a couple different batteries. I found a few to fit in there. But so yeah, it's set up pretty cool how it goes together now. Because of the straps and this bigger battery, it is a little tight right here right now. There we go. You just got to get it in the right place. That goes in there like that. So yeah, and then scale hardware, the wheels and tires. Are Vanquish. I'm building the Vanquish rig. I figured, okay, I don't want to put a lot of other people's stuff on here aftermarket. I'll put some, but not a lot. Better off spun around somehow. There we go. So my first Vanquish rig. I've got like say the bomber that's completely vanquished out. I figured I would go ahead and build this thing out of a bit of just using as much more Vanquish items because it's my first build from Vanquish and my first full kit, so I figured why not throw the little bit nicer stuff at it, get it set up a little bit better. So yeah, it was a fun build. I really didn't have any problems except one that I created myself. I used the 4-wheel steer again, and because I didn't want the plastic, I wanted to kind of make it look nicer and be a little bit more solid. Oh, that's right, I'm coming on the top one, so let me go back to this one here. Well, I can leave it on the top one actually. So I didn't want to leave the plastic links, so I bought their YURCEC, now known as Overreach Designs. They had some spacers. I thought they were machine spacers. What they are is a Allen stud with a threaded spacer that screws on, which is fine. It works great. Get a couple little thin shims, and then they're meant to use with the Vanquish machined bolts, or machine rod ends. Well, when I built the rear set, I mucked up this side somehow. I didn't get my set screws in correctly. Got them kind of and messed them up. So I had had other set screws with slightly bigger ones. So I used those and worked them in so they would work right. So you do have to be careful because this is a little bit of a fiddly spot. Those are small set screws going into a kind of awkward position on the side of the rod end. So be aware of that. And so you don't really muck them up like I did. And I only did it to the one, and it was able to correct it really easily with just a couple bigger set screws. Worked them in. Those are aluminum rod ends, so a nice quality steel set screw. You can work it in, cut a thread while you're threaded in and out, just ever a little bit, just to cut a little more thread every time. Kind of work it in, pull it out, work it in, pull it, and you'll work that set screw in through the threads. Make sure you're going into it straight through the hole, not straight looking like the thread, because that's where I messed up. So pay attention when you're putting those set screws in, is the moral of the story. So wheels are Vanquish product tanks. Let me go ahead, go back to the first. Got better video anyways. I gotta get a better upstairs camera. So 2.2 Vanquish tanks with the orange IFRs. Again, they'll be moving at some point in the future, just the IFRs themselves. I don't think I'll be moving anything else. Just taking those off and changing them out, which is gonna be a bitch because I got all these scale screws, but it is what it is, and it's got to be done. So, and then J Concept 1.9 holds. Now the J Concept holds are 1.9s. The tanks are 2.2s, so it took a little bit of work to stretch those on. They're filled with just memory foam from Proline out of a set of Baja Pro X. Mickey Thompson, Proline Mickey Thompson Baja Pro X is what they're filled with. Other than that, we have H10 bump stops on the front axle. So I added those on the front axle. I could probably get a set to add to the back axle, but it doesn't even get that close. The shocks are bottoming out, before the chassis on top of the axle, which is nice. So I got the H10 bump stops, and again, they're functioning. Let me see here. I'm gonna flip it like this and see it. Get you in a position so you can see it. Goodness, I gotta do better. But it's an actual functioning bus stop. It goes up and down. It actually hits on the axle. Well made. No fitment issue there. Dropped right in place. H10 clamps on the hydro ram. Painted it yellow. This isn't anything else, just the stock plastic hydro ram I painted yellow. Again, the overreach design link spacers, and then Vanquish metal link ends, scale bolts throughout the front axle as much as possible for now. I'm going to replace a lot of these bolts with scale bolts. These are the metal Vanquish axles. Other than that, it's the stock optic front axle internals. I may put the incision drive shafts in there if I have any issues with these, but you get quite a fair bit of steering radius with the bump stops. There are bump stops designed into these right down here. Screw that they bump into stops the thing from turning too far. I do have to set up the rest of my radio. And again, I did that on the back with the metal rod ends as you seen earlier and the clamps. Not H10, I'm sorry. These are also overreach design rear shock mounts. It gives you a double shear shock mount. The shocks typically would screw straight in. You look at the back, there's two shock holes. However, there's a spot divoted into the cross brace that looks like it could be a high third shock mount, but it's not drilled out. It's a solid spot, but like I say, you can see a divoted rivet area in the mold that they showed up, and it's equal on both sides. And there are certain spots where you could drill for a shock if you wanted to. These overreach designs, they are a double shear folded and done, and then they got a peg on the top side. So there's a peg that goes forward that goes into one of the holes. So if you mount it in the stock locations, you mount it in the center, what would be the top hole, but it looks like it's the center hole, and then your screw down here would go into the bottom hole, and that would raise your rear end. I wanted to lower the rear end a bit, and the best option was I went ahead and drilled out those two holes. That's where the pegs on these overreach design double shear rear shock mounts go, and then the screws screw in the top hole of the shock mounts on this stock cage, and that lifts the shock mount a little bit, giving you a little, not as much travel, but lowering the rear end a little bit. I didn't like the way it set up a little too high in that other setup. So one option you could do is drill those two little spots out, make sure nice and square and straight, just drill them out, and the pegs are not threaded, they're just slip pegs, and they just slide in there. They're tight. You use an M3 screw or an M3 drill bit. It goes in there nice and snug in there. Drill a nice, clean, square, straight hole. And at that point, you got double shear. Other than that, again, scale hardware on the axle. I'll be doing the inside and doing other scale hardware where I can, making it look a little bit more scale. I don't know if I'll do anything about the bolts and stuff here, but I may, if I can come up with something that looks scale. It's possible that doesn't stick out really far. It's possible I might do something with it, but out of ease, I'll probably leave the button heads. So other than that, to do the rear steer, what you have to do, which is not very much at all, the stock unit with the stock rear axle comes up with 124 millimeter top and bottom links, front and back, except the rear uppers are 114 millimeters to give the axle the proper clocking for your yoke and your pinion for your axle to shaft to drive to. When you move the front axle to the back, if you don't change the upper links, lifting this, clocking this axle a little bit more, the pinion ends up sticking downward. It kind of comes out like this, at the wrong angle. So the fix is easy. You put 124 millimeter rear upper links instead of the stock 114 millimeters. And there's a couple ways you can accomplish that. You could take the stock rear uppers, take the stock links off one end, and then replace them with like Revo or Jado or longer link ends or RPM. SSD has them. I think RC4 Drive has longer rod ends, but the Jado and Revo are usually the best bet. And just add, you need 10 more millimeters, and they're usually about 10 millimeters longer. So you could add just 2 rod ends, or you could do what a lot of people did, went with the 124 millimeter builder's links and threw them in back. They're titanium. I did that, but instead of throwing them back, I put the titanium builder's links, 124 millimeters in front, and moved the thinner stainless steel links in back. Even though it might shift a little way to the back, I'm not worried about it that much. Again, I'm not building a competition rock crawler. I'm building a Michigan running trail runner, trail rigging setup. Although I can do rock crawling with it. That said, we do have some kind of nice areas around here to go rock crawling. You just got to go way up north to really find them. So, Bob, how you doing? Off the guy? Sorry, I've been kind of missing chats there a little bit. Kind of going over the basic setup and build that I've done. I'm kind of happy with it. It's turned out pretty decently. So far runs well. I've just done some benchtop testing, and if you were watching last night, my benchtop testing ended up with putting my coffee cup on the floor, along with my ashtray and a few other things, and creating a mess right at the end as I was getting ready to close the stream. So I ended up, making a mess. So it turned out, I guess, okay that the audio was messed up in that video, because it made a hell of a mess. So yeah, Optic Kit, great build. If you've never built a kit, it's a higher end build. A little bit pricier. They're $369 for the kits. Might be $389, but I'm pretty sure it was $369 for the H10 Optic. It's got, as a kit, unlike the RTR, which has a bunch of different stuff, the kit does come with better quality items. The bearing plates are aluminum inside the transmission. It's got the machine gears, not the lightning gears, but the machine gears as opposed to the cheaper gears. It's got the Incision or Vanquish ring and pinions in the differentials, so those are upgraded. What else was it on this that it came with? Few other items over the kit. I think, aluminum shock bodies. So the shock bodies were an aluminum base. I think the kit has the stock plastic shock bodies. Few other parts that it came with. The red cap. 2 of them actually. One for the fuel cell and one for the rear axle, which I'm not using the rear axle, so I've only got one used. Stainless steel links, heavy duty rod ends. Comes with the sintered servo horn, one of them. Of course, I had to get a second one. Let's see. 1 or 2 other parts in here in the kit that is a upgrade over the RTR version. Other than that, it's a kit, so you're throwing your own electronics at it. Like I said, I threw some good stuff at it. Being my first complete Vanquish purchase and kit, I figured I may as well do a nice build of it. And then thinking of the future is where I kind of chose my secondary colors of orange. The orange rings, the IFRs, actually came with the tires. I bought these from a forum member off of ICC, or I'm sorry, RCC. So I got a better, a little better deal on them than buying everything stock. I paid $135 for the rims, coming with the orange IFCs or IFR rings, a bunch of scale hardware, hubs. These are all aftermarket buys, or maybe a Trucks of Fortune, got that the buyer or seller didn't use. But anyways, not exactly what I was wanting. I was looking at the battle boards, but they don't do the battle boards in 2.2s, and these are 2.2, and I did want 2.2s, and they fit what I was going to do for the future. So that's all right, at least for the orange part. It doesn't really matter about the rim, but the color scheme was going to work. So, for 135 bucks, they worked out. I picked up the J Concept holds, put those on there. So you got like $369 on the kit. I used Reef Raw 800 low profile servos, so 160 bucks on each. So there's 320. So that's what, 680, 690. Axle housings, 2 of those. That's $100 a piece. I think they were 100 and actually 39 a piece. So there's 280. That puts it at 970. The link spacers were 12 bucks, so that's 24 bucks. So we're looking at 985. The machine rod ends 35 bucks a pair, so we're looking at 1055. The caps and rings, 1150 or 1100, because those are like 50 bucks for all 4. Let's see, did those, the H-Tech bump stops, 30, so we're at what, 1180. The clamps were 20 each. So 1220. The R3 and motor was 300. Scale hardware was about 35. Let's see. I had the receiver. I had the battery pack, so I'm not going to count those. Another servo horn. Oh yeah, the third members, another 100. So there's 1350, or actually that puts it at 1650. Because after the 300 of the motor and the ESC 275, that was. Got something bumping there. I'm gonna have to kind of watch. Oh, right there. So I do have one issue right there. I'm seeing right there. My crossbar, where I had to mod it, still rubbing on the one side. So I might have to do just a little trimming on that plastic block that holds the top of the servo down. Clean that off a bit so it clears it on that spot. Just hitting it. I think if I clear the, I'm hitting the bolt there a little bit too. I'd have to shave a bit off that block, but I think I can without having much issue. So yeah, and then I've got still to put in, install the Vanquish bar is 50. So you're looking at, I'm looking at, not you, but well, you're looking at $1,800. That's not counting receiver and radio, not counting battery. not counting shock oil, if any grease, that kind of stuff. Well, you get that stuff with your kit. You get the shock oil, you get the grease, you get Loctite with your kit. So that's part of the kit cost. I didn't use the H-Tech. It comes, the rear shock mounts come with new black, really nicely printed carbon fiber fins. I didn't use those, but what I did use, and forgot to mention, is this is not in, I'm sorry, not H-Tech. Overreach Designs comes with black fins with the shock mounts. I didn't use those, but I did buy and use the Overreach Designs grill. This is their design. It's 3D printed, excellent, fit perfect, everything lined up exactly. So it's a very nicely printed piece, very solid. But I use their grill instead of the stock, more Toyota-ish looking grill. Obviously, this is the 4-bar Jeep-ish looking grill. I like the idea that it looks a little bit more like the old military Jeep, if you will, the Willys. Got a little bit more of that Willys look than the Toyota look to it, or even the Jeep look. That kind of nostalgic Willys kind of feel look to it, and that's what I was kind of going for with it. So yeah, and then tires. There's $50. So yeah, you're looking at, it's $1,800, maybe $1,900. That's stock cage, pretty much everything's stock in there except for the few parts I talked about in the build. I didn't change anything to metal on the build that wasn't already metal, except for the axle housings and the third members, the bump stops from H-Tech on the front, and the shock caps and collars. Everything else on this build that was plastic is still plastic. Oh, and the crossbars, those were plastic, so they're metal now. So I added a little bit of metal, not a lot, to what was plastic. I didn't replace any of the major plastic with major metal pieces. Trying to think, I didn't do anything in there except for the servo. I did, okay, one thing is something else I forgot. The servo mount is a brass servo mount. Now it looks like the Mias. It looks exactly like the Mias, but it's not. This is just a no-brainer off, or no-brander off of eBay. The Mias is 30. The no-branders, most of them were 22 to 27. I found this one for like 18 and it had like 5% off, so I paid like $17.50 free shipping. Took about 3 weeks to get here. So yeah, another $18. And that was plastic, is now metal, and of course brass up weight. Going to add some weight to it because the weight's pretty even. That's why I wasn't worried about if the titanium links were lighter than the stainless steel upper links that were up front, because I'm going to be shifting enough weight up front. I still have to buy, they're not released yet, I have to pick up steering knuckles, which I'm going to go with the axle steering knuckles. I'm sorry, the Vanquish steering knuckles, both front and rear. If they come out with brass steering knuckles, I'll probably add a brass on there just to add it. Get a little bit of that 4x. Again, I'm not rock crawling with it. I will do some steep crawls and some rock crawls and some hill crawls, so that weight up front and bias up front will be handy and necessary. But yeah, just because, again, it's my first Vanquish build. Now, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it right, using mostly Vanquish stuff. Now, leading into this, like I said, 17, 18, when I'm said and done, maybe 2,100 by the time I get the axles front and back. So I can imagine the axle is going to be $60, maybe $70 a pair. They're very, well, they're going to be white scale, kind of like they had on the Wraith in the Bomber for the AR-60 axles. They're not going to be quite the same as what's coming up on the next thing we're going to chat here about. Oh yeah, and then there's a whole nother rear axle, the front axle for the back I had to buy. That was $139 to get the rear axle and then the housing and the parts that went into it. So there's another $139 that you have to add into that total. So yeah, all of $1,800 now. 17 at the minimum side, 18 at the top side. What I got in it right now. Again, not counting battery, not counting radio and receiver. Still need to go with the knuckles on all four corners. And as far as I'm concerned at that point, other than changing the look of it, colors, it'll be pretty much done. Adding some little bit more paint detail, maybe changing the place where I mount the radiator. It'll be pretty much what I'm going to call done and running. So yeah, 18 to 2 grand, maybe 2,100. Now I've seen people in their builds 2,500. They've went with some higher ends. You've got a few other parts out there. Mias has optic parts. I believe they might be making body panels. H10 has cage, billet aluminum cage, and body panels. And I think there's another company. I want to say there's another company that's doing body panels right now, and I don't quite remember who it is off the top of my head. At any point, for H10, they've got a beautiful billet cage, which you can have anodized in, a number of 8 or so odd colors: blue, red, orange, green, pink, purple, black, bronze or brown, as they call it. Orange. But it's $500. So it's not a cheap billet cage, and it's a screw together cage. And there's people that have got that, and then their body panels are $280. Again, any color kind of combo you want. So you got $780 you can add into, if I wanted to go with the H10 billet cage and billet panels, basically $800. So you add that onto the 1,800 to 2,000. Now you're at $2,600 to $2,800 that some people have had. Some people have spent more. They've got a bunch of the details, the cages, or the fuel cells, more scale radiators. There's people that are making the front hydroram in aluminum. I believe a guy out of Malaysia is making them out of aluminum, and people are spending the money and buying them. They're not exactly cheap to get shipped. Carbon fiber panels. I know Vitavon is making items. Vitavon just released carbon fiber panels for the H10 Optic and Optic kits. And that's all the same panels and rear wings of carbon fiber, and they're like $90. That's a great price. And again, in colors, they look great. When I do my, delivery change, I may go with a set of those for what I was going for. At least when I'm thinking about this originally, what I wanted to do. This is before the recent change that come about. So yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple people say they're north of 3,000. Imagine you go for a super rare set of wheels, older Vanquish wheels that you're paying $400 for the wheels for. Special, the limited edition wheels, limited edition shocks. There's other people that have bought F10 portals. So you got that entire cost of front and rear portal, steering axles. So they got the portals, the knuckles, the boxes. There's going to be $400, $500 by the time you're done with the housings, the axles, all the thing you need to build. So yeah, there's people that have over $3 grand into their optic kits. Didn't need to go that crazy, and I'm glad I didn't. Because what came about next almost makes me kick myself for buying this and building it, but it doesn't. Because this is a fun build. It was a great build to get really familiar with it. Because last Tuesday before, maybe, has it been a week already? Might have been. At any rate, Vanquish Products announced the Ripper 2. What everybody's been calling the Ripper 2, what they officially call the H10 Origin. And it's built around the hydro axle and the H10. Actually, it's more honest to say, according to all the guys at Vanquish, and I trust them, they designed and built the damn things. The H10 Optic is a spin-off of the already in production and in design and development stage of the H10 Origin. So they were building and designing and going over the H10 Origin and how are they going to do the package and present it. And they hired the new guy, I guess. I think this is how the story is. They got Brandon involved some way, shape, or form. And from that spun off the H10 Optic, which they released as an RTR and now as a kit. But all this got done and released before the H10 Origin was ready to announce and release. So the reason I kind of say, almost kicking myself, because it's possible, depending on how things played out with their work at Vanquish, the Origin could have been the first thing that came out before the Optic RTR. But it just happened to play out. The RTR came out, and then they released the kit some 6-8 months, later. And then right after the kit came out at the end of November, middle of November, whenever it was released, the beginning here, beginning couple weeks of January, they dropped the Origin out. And yes, I bought one. And they're $3,500. People are like, yeah, that to be nuts to spend that kind of money. But people have already spent that kind of money and they don't have what the H10 Origin is. And what the H10 Origin is, if you allow me a moment to set this up, you'll bring up the page. I gotta get to the home page. You gotta get on the right screen, and now come over here. So the H10 Origin. Let's add my little bit of, source. That one. Nope, not that one. Desktop. Remove. It is 2. I thought it was 1 yesterday. Now fit the screen. Whoops. Do that down here. Bam. So the H10 Origin from Vanquish is, as you see, machined in the United States. Out of United States sourced aluminum, I believe 6061. This is the cat on the cage. This is a born in California, designed to perform. Again, not a rock crawler. This is sold as a trail buggy. Well, I don't know, maybe the Origin might be a rock crawler, and I think that is kind of what they're looking at, and that's the rock crawler version, where the Optic they spit out as the trail rig, I believe is how it is. My speculation. So built with precision. These are nice. Look at this cage here. I mean, it's beautifully done. One piece, the whole thing, the whole side piece is billeted out of one. So let me pause. I can't pause it. It won't pause. So if you look at the size of this piece of aluminum here, that it's one block. That's going to have to be 3 inches, 4 inches thick. The cage on this unit is about 15 inches long. This is the cage on the Origin is about set a little bit longer, maybe 16 inches, I think they said. So it's a little bit longer. So you've got at least maybe 18, 19, with the overlap, 20-inch long by, 5-inch tall from down here to up here is maybe 5-6 inches. So 20 by 6 by 3 chunk of billeted aluminum, 6061, that becomes this cage. So 96, 97% of the piece of aluminum is gone when they're done or unused in the cage. So here's the rig itself. Of course, these are one piece. And it's a builder's kit. You can see a little piece right here of where the pieces come together. It's hard to see it on this side. Panels are overlapped. Again, billeted panels. These panels started as a chunk of aluminum. They're all billeted out. axle housings are all metal. You've got the machined rod ends with the Vanquish, spacers, Vanquish C-clamps in metal. It is a stock plastic tank. There are a few plastic items. The interior, the fuel cell, and you'll see it here in a minute as we go down into these pictures here. It is now currently out of stock. I have no idea how many they had limited to sell. I'm going to estimate in the $100 or 100 unit range, maybe 150, 125 that they got together and ready. And then you got to choose your colors on most aspects, except for chassis or axle color. So you could choose, as you see here, black, clear, gray, red, blue, orange, bronze, or gold. Anything but black or clear was a $100 upcharge for the extra different color anodizing. The body color was the same, and again, a $100 upcharge, so your panels could make any color. $100 for anything but black and clear. Your axle color was strictly black or clear, no upcharge, no different colors. Your wheel color was, again, all the colors, but no upcharge. The wheel colors were going to be part of, you could add any color wheel you want for no upcharge. So you had the cost of $3,500 plus potentially $200 more on the order for a body color and chassis of a different color other than black and clear. Well, as I said, I did buy one. I chose a black chassis a clear chassis, so clear cage and clear axle housings, and orange wheel colors and orange body colors. And they don't show orange in here, they show the red and blue and just clear right now. So here's obviously a red and clear with clear axles. And this is how the kit comes. This is what you get. It is a kit. There's no electronics at all except for the lights. You do get the Q series headlights, and these are supposed to be badass bright. They are part of it. That's the only electronics that comes with the rig. But this is what you get. No wheels or no tires and stuff. But you get everything else. No electronics. The rest of it is pretty much billited. There's red. There is the blue, and again, and carbon fiber. They all have a carbon fiber roof. The top roof is carbon fiber. Everything else is a billited piece. And they're numbered on the carbon fiber on the roof as well as the rear panel. This rear panel right here is the serial number 0 through 000 through 999 is the number series. So up to 1,000, they said they don't plan on ever having to make that money. Although I could see them selling that. So if you look at this is the cage itself, and what you see in black are the plastic items, at least in the cage, that is part of the kit. The NOS tank, the fuel cell, these are not plastic. The wings are carbon fiber. They just got them mounted on there. I wanted to point that out. And the center structure, dash structure area, and the front bumper. That's the only plastic pieces on the cage system. Then another angle of the red in rear, a front end shot of the right. I like the grill, how it's in older, late 60s, early 70s, reminiscent looking grill, like you would probably see in possibly a Ford Bronco. Definitely a Ford Bronco, but it doesn't look like that. Different enough, it doesn't really cause any issues. It's not a Bronco, but it has that feel and texture and look to it. I like how the shocks come out through the unit. Another fully built one. Of course, they're showing you fully built, so you get an idea what it's all looking like. Another shot of the red one. Another shot of the blue one. They do come with red caps and spring collars. And as I was saying earlier, I'm going to be making some minor changes. These orange, because I ordered orange panels and orange wheels, the orange caps and collars, or actually I'll Well, the orange caps and collars, unless they're exactly the same, which I doubt they are, the orange caps and collars will go on the Origin, and the red caps and collars will come over here on the Optic and highlight the red items. That's where the orange rings, the IFR rings, if I could use them. I'm not sure that I could use them with what I've chosen for wheels. Well, with actually what comes with the wheels, but I might take some different, get some different bead locks and put a different set of bead locks, which I don't know that I'll be able to use the IFR rings with these bead lock faces. I chose they're a Vanquish bead lock ring. So yeah, it's a beautiful looking kit. So people are like, oh my God, $3,500. One of the reasons I want to kind of detail, and this ain't even what I would call a top end build. It's a high end build. But I could have easily thrown $500 more at this and went with, other items that cost more. For instance, I could have went with, raw 800s, which is a $200 servo. That's the raw 800 in brass. The brass case, servo, they're $200. That's $40 more. That's another $80 on just the servo cases. I could have done a lot more as far as adding the H-Tech besides just the cage and the panels and the couple H-Tech items I did add. You can do a front end piece, that's $60. You add the incision axles, there's $65. I could easily be sitting at $2,500 on this without the cage and the panels. So $3,500, geez, that's pricey. But yeah. You're getting almost an entirely billet aluminum unit. And this thing's, still 75%, 65%. My optic is still 65% plastic. So pricey? Sure. Worth it? Yes, the value's there. Now, some of the other things, is the wheels you get. You don't get to choose what style wheel. Everybody gets the Battleborn, I don't quite remember what they're calling these right now. Basically a six slot mag from the early 70s. They're very reminiscent again of that late 60s, early 70s style. This unit here, if you can see it, it says 007. These are the number plates. So your unit will have actually certificate of actually a title. I'm calling it a title because it is. It's a title. It's got a serial number on it, and the title of manufacturer, which is like an othe title. So it's a title. All vehicles, don't matter what kind of vehicle it is, if it's got a motor on it, it's got a vehicle, it's got what's called an othe title. This is the title of manufacturer. Most people never get an othe title from the manufacturer. One, they don't know about it, so they don't know to ask for it. And two, you can only get it if you pay the vehicle off and buy it outright in cash and have no loan against it, regardless, again, of the type of vehicle. This is done at the government level for reasons that we'll talk about in some other podcast that's more conspiracy theory related. So yes, you get a title with this thing, and it's matched to your number, which is written on your unit, and then here engraved into or machined into the rear plate. And every number is different. There's a sequence of number. You can't choose the number that you're getting. It's just in the order that they received in the process and designed or made and put together in the package as a sold package to go out to the door to the purchaser. To that purchaser, because you get to order your own colors and stuff. So they're sequenced in that process. So as they ship out the door, I believe is how they're going to determine who gets what number plate in the ordering sequence, or as they come in with the stuff that they got, that number plate will go in with the ordering sequence and off it goes. And it will be either black or chrome. Actually, in the order, because they got to set it up with chassis. If you're going to have your chassis done with the color, that number plate's going to be the color of the chassis on your rear plate. So that's going to go with the chassis to be anodized. And that's why there's a 3-month lead time after you purchase before you get your unit. because they don't know what you're going to buy, and they don't have a lot of these other items just stacked up and 80 of every color ready to go of everything. So they're doing that a little bit more to order on the anodizing. They just made all the parts, so all it's got to be is anodized, done, packaged, shipped. It's yours. But they need some lead time to match that anodizing, which is fine. Gives you a little time to prep yourself. So yeah, these are high-end units. I mean, everything but the few parts you see. Now, there's a few parts in the tranny, in the transmission, that are plastic on the housing. Machined motor plate, machined the high-end machined and anodized transmission spacers, the long spacers that say Vanquish. Those aren't plastic; those are machined. All the gears and all the parts inside the tranny are the Pro version tranny, like the VSR VS410 Pros, or the not the Stance, maybe the Fordyce. One of them has the Pro tranny. One of these other ones, or maybe it is a Stance. No, because that's got the twin. Anyways, one of them's got the Pro tranny that comes with it. That's got all the upgraded gears, all the upgraded metal parts and aluminum bearing holders, and the Origin has that as well. Comes with everything. And then in the tranny, so those few parts are also plastic, and the machine gears and those parts in the tranny are mostly done in the Taiwan shop. And I believe maybe the shocks might be done, are also part of the Taiwan shop, but you're getting, as they say, the first time ever, hard anodized shock bodies. Now, in the Optic, they got metal shock bodies, anodized metal shock bodies. They look like they're hard anodized, but there's something a little bit different for the first time that they're releasing with the Origin kit. So yeah, this kit's really a nice looking unit, well done. They also have their own metal functional bump stops. Bounce through a few more of the pics here. It's a very well, nicely made unit. A few more of the chassis and cage. I mean, there's a lot in there. Here's the front axle. Again, the front axle. I believe this part here is still plastic. I don't think they've changed that to metal. I believe the ram housing itself is plastic. That's going to allow it to slide better. The rear axle is not the same as the H10 Optic. It's similar, got the same third member, but it's not the same rear axle. It's strictly an axle made for the Optic, or I'm sorry, the Origin. And you see it's got a real thick, heavy brass rear end. Things are kind of beefier, a little taller mount for the upper links. So this is a one-off item for the Optic, as are the knuckles. These are not going to be the knuckles you get with the for the H10 Optic. The H10 Optic metal knuckles are not going to look like this. They're going to look a little bit different. These knuckles here are, again, for the Origin, going to be specific to it. Your shock bodies, and maybe it's what it is first time, is you're not getting the anodized shock bodies. You're actually getting the tops and the rings, the adjuster rings that come with them in red. But again, I'm changing mine out. It looks like the shocks themselves are pretty much the same, except I do have the titanium nitride shock shafts in my Optic, and I'll be buying the nitride shock shafts and building those in that. So here's the tranny and the skid plate. Again, skid plate is fully plastic. A couple parts in the skid in the tranny that's plastic, but you get all the parts. And I'm surprised they didn't add this, but I'll have to look inside the bay. I haven't looked. Maybe they got something to. I'm just surprised they didn't put the shifter on that. Kind of a bummer if I have to buy a new shifter mechanism, but I can always mod one to make that work. Modding it would be mine even a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, there's some unique items that are for this. You're getting the machined rod ends and links for the front, and that's the end of the different pictures they've taken. So yeah, I mean, this is a fully machined unit, except for these couple units here, the skid plate, the transmission housing for the most part, but all the machine parts inside the tranny, there's other plastic bearing holders that are not plastic in that unit. Your front hydro axle. This is the same axle as what comes on the Optic, but it's all metal. You're not getting any of the plastic bits except for potentially this hydro ram. And I say potentially because I don't know for sure, but I'm really willing to bet that's plastic. Facilitate smooth transfer of this hydro ram through that faux hydro ram. Your special project rear axle. Origin styling, again, you're getting functional bump stocks or bump stops. The unique wheels, billited machined door panels and encloses, and they are a metal machine pin and carbon fiber trays, carbon fiber, again, rear fins, and carbon fiber hood or roof, I should say. Here's your machined aluminum carbon fiber body panels. Couple straps, your rims. Be nice. This is something I'm gonna, $3,500. That should not have 3mm bolts. All this should be scale. I'm gonna buy it and add it. You damn well right. For the price, I would say it would be nice to see all of this stuff, all the stuff that could be scale bolts, to add the scale bolts. You're not going to be able to scale bolt everything, but scale bolts will fit in the bolts here, at least in the front, maybe not in the back because of the spring. Scale bolts and studs could fit in your clamp bolts. Bolts and studs, a scale bolt could fit in your, pieces in your cage up here where, these could all be scale bolts up in here. I don't know if you'd want to put scale bolts on your 4 panels on top, but you could, but of course you don't see the bolts on the body panels because they're all set to hide behind the other body panels. You wouldn't be able to scale bolt those most likely unless there's a really shallow head, in which I wouldn't want to use for fear of stripping it out, because they need to be tucked in to get the body panels to seat and cover. But like I said, this one could be scale, that one could be scale. All of these underneath here could be scale on both sides. The rear ones, these could all be scale both in here. Add that look. Now these screw in from the back side. Actually, they don't even screw in. These screw into the unit. You might be able to add some scale bolts in there, so when the door's off, you're actually looking at scale bolts holding the trail in there. You got these bolts up here, which would have to be longer, but they could make a scale bolt for that. And I bet you if they sold those, they'd sell the living piss out of all of these bolts, at 25mm or 20mm in a scale setup. They'd sell the piss out of them because I bet you I know I'd buy them. I'd buy, 16mm scale bolts for all the link mounts. So yeah, I wish they would make them. I wish somebody would offer a 16mm M3 scale bolt. So you could do that and really, add that look. Not that you want to look like a bolted frame, but you're not going to make it look like a welded frame. It's not welded. It's clearly bolted. So you may as well scale it out, scale bolt to call it killer. Throw that extra pennies at her. So yeah, I got one. It's, like I said, clear cage and clear axles, but with orange panels and orange wheels. They come with black beadlock rings. I have other beadlock rings I'm looking at buying. If I do buy those, they'll be orange, and I won't need the IFRs from this optic setup. So here's your, your machined shocks and caps and unit with sticking out the panel, your Q series headlights, your functional bump stops, and your Pro Spec BFD transmission. That's what it is, Pro Spec transmission. And they have some beautiful shots taken mostly, I believe, by Matt from Scale Builders Guild, who's a artiste when it comes to taking pictures, but he's also a audio or a video videographer, so he understands video and photos and does nice equipment, takes beautiful shots. Has a final 6% overdrive to the front standard. It doesn't come with a twin transmission. You can put the twin in there and shift it. You got the room, but it's going to take up some real estate for things like battery I've seen a few people say, it's taking up the room, although with these plates here, these kind of side plates, they don't stick out, they're just strapped. You may have that room depending on the battery you use or the batteries, depending on the ESC. I've got a fairly large ESC in this unit, the R3X ESC. So it takes up some real estate. I could probably relocate it. I would have to do some configuring and figure out where I would relocate it so it was out of the way, not getting in the way of anything. And there's not many places I can see that it would really fit and be out of the way all the time. I don't even think it would fit underneath the roof here, the hood, with a nice mount on it, because it's a little bit taller, and I think it's, the servo in there, and that's without a just the steering servo. Have no servo with a winch if I wanted to go that route. So yes, I mean, pricey, $3,500, hell yeah. It's gonna cost a penny if you wanted to get one. They're not sold out for good. I know they're sold out of stock. That don't mean nothing. They are gonna make more, but what they did is they got so many packages ready that they could have anodized to specific colors for buyers and put those live, let you choose your colors. And I was fortunate enough to get in on the first round. I have no idea what number I'm getting yet. Some people may see their Origin kits very soon, because they do have some stuff in stock ready to ship. Depends on what color options you pick. Assumingly, they got maybe some reds, obviously clears, probably some black stuff, and most likely they've got some, come on now, I guess. Yeah, I should have been down there. Let me get up here. In blues. So they probably got red and blue and black and clear, and maybe a little bit of some of the other colors here. Like I said, there was gray, which looks really nice. On the live, they showed a gray cage, and one with gray panels and a clear cage, or maybe black cage. It looks really good. Both the gray colors are nice. The red, the blue, the orange, the bronze, the gold. So pricey? Oh, hell yeah. Too damn much. Absolutely. So let me bring this back in and take you out. So yeah, it's gonna cost some pennies. Well, you damn skippy it is. Is it worth it? Well, you damn skippy it was. So, oop, wrong one. I want to come here. So yeah, don't mind my beat up room. It's a trash house. Getting ready to remodel and doing a bit of it. I'm gonna be doing the whole thing, but I got a bunch of stuff to do. And this is just the spare room. Everything else falls into, and basically my cat's room. But it doubles as my RC room. So yeah, this thing is, it's full of, machine goodness. Everything, like I said, damn near everything on it is machined out of a 6061 USA sourced billited aluminum, made here in America, except for the tranny parts and the plastic parts, which are made in the Taiwan factory. So yeah, people complain about parts. The kit was $369, mostly plastic. You got some metal, some pot metal, some stuff. You got stainless steel links. You have machined ring and pinion gear, but a lot of plastic on parts. You get the nicer shocks, but plastic caps and shock body, but you still got plastic caps and adjusters on the kit. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you don't get that would be nice to have upgraded on the kit, but you do get upgraded parts in the tranny over the RTR tranny. So yeah, I mean, you add everything up, you could buy the RTR for, what is it, $550, which you'll probably end up over some point upgrading, which people are already. I mean, A lot of people who have that $3 grand in their kit started out with the RTR and then bought all new electronics along the way, and so there's that added expense of stuff they're no longer using. But yeah, you can really throw some stupid money at any RC. I mean, I've got, you know, let me go ahead and set you aside for a moment. Talk about some stupid money at any RC. We can talk stupid money at my Trump Supermoto. Mega Moto. So, this is all Trio, besides a few parts. Trio servo saver, Trio lugs, low-C titanium lug, fork lugs, Trio brake caliper, Trio rims, Vitavon wheels, Trio swing arm, Trio gear cover, Trio chain guard and sprocket, Trio foot pegs on this, carbon fiber from Extreme RC carbon fiber chassis plates, hot racing muffler, GPM gold forks, low-C aluminum shock caps and shock bottom cap. I mean, there's more. The titanium, Trio titanium front caliper or front disc. And there's other things on here I'm not even thinking about. The graphics, there's $1,500 in this easy. So yeah, you could get stupid throwing money at things, just making things yours, or you can keep them stock and do really, really inexpensive changes, and and make changes to colors with paint or stickers. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to obviously change shit. I'm an electronics snob, not so much a snob. I want to know if something fails, I got a warranty. I can get it fixed cheaply, or at least get it fixed and not have to just spend twice, try twice, because the second one burned out because I spent cheaply like I did for the first one. So I'm more of a buy once, cry once electronics, and I've done that my whole life. It doesn't matter what it is. TVs, I bought it now. They're kind of throwaway TVs. I'm buying lesser expensive ones. But TVs, stereos, I was a musician for 35, 40 years, live musician, so my equipment, I didn't skimp. I had some lesser expensive equipment, don't get me wrong. But when it come to performing live, I spent the money on the quality equipment because the quality mattered to the overall sound. And if you wanted to keep getting paid every week, you needed to sound good. And there's more to sounding good than just talent. A sound guy can ruin the most talented band in the world by making them sound like shit. Trust me, I've heard really good bands sound like shit because the sound guy don't know what the piss they're doing, or worse yet, pissed off and did it on purpose. So yeah, I mean, money is temporary. Enjoyment, memories, they last at least until you forget them. You're Joe Biden, or die. So yeah, I'm setting at about $1,800. Easily throw about another 1,000 in this if I add the H10 cage, and not believe me, I was debating on it. Man, that's a beautiful set of billet cage. And then they dropped the Origin. I'm like, I made my mind up. I missed out on the Ripper. I had gotten out in 2012 of RC. The Ripper was released around 2017. When the Ripper was released, it was $1,800, I understand. And it was a cage, a billeted panel setup, a few other bits, and that was it. You had to throw the entire rest of the rig at it. from your chassis rails, your transmission, all your electronics, your wheels, your axles, all that had to be done besides the $1,800 or $2,000 that the Ripper cage and I have to redo those shocks. The Ripper cage and panels ran. So people easily had $2,500. If you bought the Ripper setup, $2,000 by the time we're done with taxes and shit, depending on where you bought it, how you got it. Figure, $2,000 there. With an RTR that you threw underneath it, yeah, another $400. So, easily $2,500 minimum to get a Ripper rolling. And that's just the most basic undercarriage items. Buying an RTR. Throw in metal axle housings from Vanquish and the various other companies out there, Deluxe and now Creel and Vitavon, all the other ones that are out there. Yeah, people easily put $3,000-$4,000 into the Ripper. And again, from Vanquish, the Ripper was cage and panels, billeted, 6061, U.S. sourced, U.S. made. It was $1,800. And both cage and panels. The Origin, as we see in there, is everything. I mean, it's all of it. It's not just the cage. It's not just the panels. It's everything. The whole thing is almost aluminum. 85% or more is aluminum or metal. So yeah, there's significant difference between what the Origin is and the Ripper was. Another huge difference, besides the fact that the Ripper was just a cage and panels, is the ability when you could put that on your own chassis system, the options for being your build and looking completely different than anybody else's Ripper was huge, because everything underneath the cage and the panels could change. Transmissions could be different, chassis rails could be different, axles, drive shafts, wheels, tires, obviously. So the personalization factor for a Ripper 2 was, I think, going to be highly more variable than what it's going to be for the H10 Origin. That said, the H10 Origin is a platform, not an upgrade. It's a slider. It's almost an RTR. They could throw $200 of their cheap electronics at it, wrap some Yokohama Geolanders on this thing, and sell it for $4,000 as an RTR. Have it put together and build, or have it sold as a kit for $4,000 and have it put together and build for $4,500. For professionally, quote unquote, assembled. So yeah, and most people were expecting, when you heard people talking about the Ripper 2, which didn't exist, and it never was the Ripper 2. It was always the Optic Origin, because the Ripper 2 was just a cage and panels. So that's where the comparison between these two stop. Is the Ripper 2, or I'm sorry, not Ripper 2, the Ripper. The Ripper and the H10 Origin only compare in they both have billeted cages and billeted panels. From there, nothing is the same. Everything else is different. So from $1,800 to $3,500, another $1,700. That really isn't that bad. You're getting a completely high-end build. And yes, you got to throw electronics at it. Got to throw rims or tires and foams, or 3D printed foams or inserts of some sort. Couple servos, or not couple servos, a servo, and if you want other items, say a winch, or spool operated winch, or a moving head on your character, a second guy to drive, or navigate. Put a flat screen in his hands and he can be your navigator, put your passenger in. So yeah, there are a lot of options of what could be done. So the personalization is going to be pretty good on the Origin, but again, I think the Ripper 2 or I think the Ripper has a lot more option for variance and personalization, just because you only got a cage and panels and everything else was up to you. There's a lot of guys that made they use a pair of chassis and some axles and made everything else. Really, customized the damn things, put in their own interiors and all this other stuff. So, and then again, the market on the Ripper 2, 6, 7, 8 years later, they sold the cage and the unit for $1,800. Yeah, you had to throw extra money at it. Let's say somebody had $3,000-$4,000 in their Ripper when they first bought the cage and built it. But here we are 8 years later, and these things are selling. The Rippers are selling for $8,000 to $10,000, $8,000 or $9,000 for a pretty nice clean build, ready to run. Maybe not counting radios or receivers or batteries, but pretty much ready to go rigs. Yeah, they're pulling $8,000, $9,000, $7,000 on the average for a little bit more of the rougher ones. Maybe $5,000 to $6,000 for some of the. Maybe they have no electronics in them anymore. Totally stripped out of that. They've been ran, not rough, not beat, but well ran. But still, if somebody had a $3,500 investment 7 years ago, they're almost guaranteed $5,000 or $6,000 at the minimum, unless it's just trash and covered in Flex Seal. If anybody gets that reference with the Vanquish and Harley designs, you'll get it. So yeah, it's a lot of money. And no, I'm not gonna shelf clean that baby. It's gonna be ran. I'll be hand of God every time it gets a little tipsy. There'll come a time when I'll say F it, F around and find out, and she'll get her scratches because it needs some character, because that is one of the things that does actually add value to the Rippers, because people are driving them. They're not beating on them, they're driving them. They're getting that character, personal characterization, along with what they've done with it to customize it to make it their own quote-unquote rock buggy. So yeah, there's a lot in that mix. Spent too much money, absolutely. If I had the old lady around, she'd probably kill me, and if she watches this sometime, she might kill me anyways. But things are what they are. I'm stag at home at the moment. We won't go into all that. Again, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video for a whole nother conspiracy theorist night. So we're in an hour and a half. I'm going to go ahead and knock off because I do have to get something to eat yet tonight. And I should probably jump my ass into the shower. So thanks for hanging around. If you would, hit that like button, smash that share. And if you really would, hit that subscribe button. If you subscribe to me, I'll try to subscribe back to you when I see that you've done it. I subscribe to people here and there as well as I'm going through. But yeah, if you make the effort to subscribe to me, I'll find you and subscribe back to you guys. So try to grow everybody's channels. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the little rant review. Not really a rant. Just a hell of a breakdown between the cost of what it takes to RTR, to have a kit, to build a quality kit, to something absolutely unique like the H10 Origin or the Ripper was for its time. So yeah, education's key, and because I see a lot of people complain, that's crazy, $3,500, you're nuts. Meanwhile, they've got a $3,000 rig set next to them that's been sitting on the shelf for 3 years because they no longer drag race. So what are you going to do? At any rate, thanks for hanging out. You all have a good evening.